Hi everyone and welcome back to another episode of Bobble Pod. This time I'm recording in a completely different setting, as you might be seeing if you're watching on YouTube behind me. I'm actually at the Myco offices again, where I recorded my previous podcast. You might remember with Nikki Bedford. I'll be traveling between the UK and UAE quite a lot, so the location of the Mr. Bobble podcast and Bobble Pod will change from time to time. On today's podcast, I'm going to talk about digital marketing in the UAE versus the UK. But before I begin, as always, you know the routine. If you're new, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. If you're watching YouTube, I would say hello YouTube. Don't forget to click on the bell notification, subscribe, and you'll get up-to-date notifications on when our episodes come out every week on a Tuesday. So formalities out of the way, welcome back. We get a lot of questions through about me being in the UAE. A lot of people would have seen whilst I'm recording this, it's coming to the end of COP28. So today's date is the 13th of December. And I get asked quite a lot by British businesses, what is it like in Dubai? What is it like in the UAE in the Middle East? Now, I've already answered that question when I did my podcast back in January, which was the truth about Dubai. But the question then goes into, well, what is the marketing sphere? What is the marketing space like in the UAE? And how does that compare to what you're doing in the UK? Is it exactly the same or is it different? And you'd be surprised to hear that it's not the same. It is different. Each country, each region has different variables, a different audience demographic. And I'm just going to go through the differences between, digital marketing in the UAE versus the UK based on what I've learned over the last, 9 to 10 months. We now have clients out here. We're doing multiple projects. So we've definitely got some insights, still quite raw data, but I think it would be quite useful to anyone or as a brand or if you're working client side or if you're agency side in terms of how to penetrate the UAE market in particular. So predominantly Western Europe, gets a lot of ad spend, gets a lot of visibility. But when you consider the Middle East as a region first, there's a population between 400 and 500 million people in this area, which covers basically all of the Middle East from Morocco all the way to Arabian Peninsula. So a report which I was reading by McKinsey and Company found out that basically every dollar that you spend in the Middle East, a company can reach up to 4 people in the UAE. Or in the wider Middle East regions. Now, if we were to compare that to the UK to begin with, for every pound that you spend on advertising, whether it be Google or whether it be, paid social, for example, let's say Meta or Instagram, you'd probably be lucky, you'd realistically reach one person, if you're very lucky 2, but again, that depends on the level of targeting that you're doing. In the UK, there's a lot of competition for targeting the same audiences. Platforms like Google and Meta have become very, very broader with their targeting options, so there's a lot of overlap between ads and what people see. Just recently I was having a conversation with an agency owner back in the UK, and have you noticed that basically after every 2 posts on Instagram it's an ad now? And that was leading up to Christmas. I said, well, that's likely to happen as Meta update the algorithm to allow more ad space, to allow for more advertising to take place in what will be the biggest seasonal advertising period ever, leading up to obviously Christmas, Black Friday, Boxing Day, New Year's Day. All the seasonal offers are out right now. Everyone who's B2C, e-commerce, is advertising. Not as much in terms of B2B, but there are opportunities out there. So with the cost impact in terms of $1 allowing you to reach up to 4 people, whereas in the UK, I'd probably say £1 lets you reach up to 1, max 2 people for the same value, then it makes the UAE and the Middle East a lot more attractive. So the biggest thing to come out of the UAE, what I've seen, is the growth of mobile technology. That opens up a much, much bigger market when it comes to digital marketing. In the UK, a lot of mobile users. We have the GWI data that shows us that. Google is mobile first indexing, mobile first in terms of web design. So from an SEO perspective, you have to consider mobile first. But one thing I'll highlight is 50% of the population in the UAE is around the age of 25. So between the 21 and 30 age demographic. Now that's quite important when you consider 50% of the population fits in just that specific demographic. They are going to be using mobile devices a lot more. There's a lot of mobile tech. Just to give you an example, the UAE is built for convenience. I've been out here and I have multiple apps. I have a folder on my iPhone called UAE apps and UAE travel. So everyone knows about Careem out here, and through Careem you can get your taxi, you can get your food delivered, you can get fast food delivered, you can pick up parcels, you can drop things off from one house to another house, you can order your cleaning, you can get electronic supplies, you can order a handyman. It is convenience. It's built to be mobile first. People don't walk around with their IDs. There's an app that has everything with your Emirates ID, passport element. So if you ever go somewhere, they ask for your Emirates ID or your passport, there's an app for it. It's just built around mobile technology and mobile convenience. Very high tech. Everything you do is mobile. You know, like in the UK and London in particular, you've got the Lime bikes, they've got different elements. It's all use your mobile phone charge. Wherever you go, there's mobile charging points, so you could be connected and not run out of battery. So a very mobile first marketplace. So that changes it because it's not as mobile focused in the UK. Mobile is very predominant for platforms like social media, but we have to now consider for platforms like SEO and Google within the UAE to be mobile first. So everything we're doing is with mobile creative, mobile video and design. We're not even considering anything desktop or laptop focused based on the work we're doing with our clients, because that's where it is. One of our clients out here is Where's My Paws At, which is a mobile app company for lost pets. It helps you track pets, but the app does a lot more than that. It's, ID tagging, creating a profile for your pet. There's a community element to it. There's discounts. There's a lot more. So what you find here is you rely more on app usage than you would do in the UK. And it's a different lifestyle, because whereas here in the UAE, I use my mobile a lot more for apps and to order taxis and stuff instead of using Uber or flagging a black and white cab down in London. Anything else, I would go onto a particular website, so like Gumtree or something, but one app that does it all. That's the most impressive element that's there. And it's very reactive, very responsive. It's easy. It's very convenient. So 50% population, around 21 to 50, all using mobile, which means it's a mobile tech that you have to focus on. One area to kind of really highlight is, I'd say in the UAE, there's more digital advertising screens and billboards to promote tourism in the city than there are probably anywhere I've seen Leeds or London. In particular, everywhere you go, it's all digital ads and screens. So again, another platform to kind of consider. So a lot of the income in the UAE is predominantly affluent. So entrepreneurs making an ideal consumer group. So it's great for luxury brands, electronics. High revenue per customer is what comes out of the advertising. So you're spending less, but getting more ROI and ROAS as a result of it. So overall, but obviously, they don't have the market size in the UAE. So, for example, the UAE population is around about 10 to 11 million overall. So it's not a lot when you consider, there's 25 million in the London and Greater London area altogether. So there's more people in London and Greater London than, UAE combined as an entire country. So you have to take into consideration market size and cap when promoting. So I'm not saying to you drop everything you're doing in the UK and start advertising in the UAE, but what I am trying to highlight is that actually it's more cost effective and a higher ROAS, and mobile is a platform you need to be focused on, and your age demographic is predominantly young affluent, because of the money they earn that is essentially tax free. So there's no income tax for income generators in the UK. Just to give you an idea in terms of which are the most popular brands in the UAE, you've got Emirates, WhatsApp. I find that one quite funny because you're not really allowed to use WhatsApp, and you're not allowed to use a VPN out here. And I'm not going to make a statement of whether I use WhatsApp or VPN out there in case it gets seen by anyone in terms of officials in the UAE and it gets told off. But after that, you got Samsung. You got Carrefour, which is a supermarket, huge. You see them anywhere. Samsung Galaxy. So actually, Samsung has two elements. Then you got YouTube, you got iPhone, Apple, Emaar, and Google. So top 10 most popular brands in the UAE, from Emirates, which is the biggest one, Emaar, biggest property company out there, but importantly, Google and YouTube and iPhone and Apple. So it's predominantly Apple brand phones. I very rarely see people with Androids in the UAE. I think for every Android I see, I'll probably see 7 iPhones in the UAE in terms of who I come across. So that's why you'd expect, iPhone. But then it comes back to the information I'm sharing is that, 50% of the population, 21 to 30, but mobile technology is at the forefront of everything they're doing here. So it makes sense that for brands like Apple and iPhone in particular as the model to be used, everyone's got the Apple Watches. It's catered for next level tech, which opens up the scope for advertising. So if you're thinking about advertising in the UAE compared to the UK, you need to be looking at mobile strategy a lot more. So that comes down to, yes, social media, because, but optimizing, when you go into the targeting towards mobile placements and devices. In particular, I'd focus on Apple and iPhone devices. If you want to get more reach across Instagram and Facebook, TikTok's quite prevalent out here, but YouTube is, a big brand out here, the 6th brand on the list. So you want to focus on YouTube Shorts, again, focused around video content, video formats, attributed towards, mobile devices. You've got Google, a lot of searches happen on Google. You've got to make sure that your website is so much more mobile friendly out here than it is in the UK. That helps so much from an SEO perspective, as well as a PPC perspective in terms of driving quality traffic to your website and ranking. So it's very, very, very competitive in the mobile landscape, and it's very, very mobile first. So one thing I have noticed in terms of about companies, it's not really ideal for too many startups. Now, I might get criticism for this, but so the types of companies you'll see is tech companies, IT, property, real estate, direct to consumer, a lot of B2B, financial, legal, accounting is quite big out here. I read a news story where I think it was a billionaire, I can't remember the name, who said that they expect Abu Dhabi to be the financial center of the world in the next few years. Probably it'll take longer for them to do that, but it kind of shows that it's becoming a financial hub. So there's a lot more established companies in the UK. So whereas you've got a lot of new tech coming from places like the USA, such as Silicon Valley in California, I'd say Leeds, which is the city I'm from, is probably more in terms of tech startup focused than probably Dubai. I see a lot of tech in Dubai, but I feel like it's been brought and adopted into Dubai but started elsewhere. So that is what I would say is what I see in terms of like the company makeup, especially in the wider Gulf as well, in terms of what I see. And that's supported by some of the research that I was reading by McKinsey's company. New products are not easy to market. They face a lot of competition from the bigger established brands. So if there's someone already here and you're new to market, you will struggle. Because as mentioned, cheaper to advertise, they're getting better ROAS, and they will have the learnings, the insights, and the analytics to understand who their customers are, how to interact with them, and how to get their attention. Not only to get their attention and buy into their brand, but how to continue to engage with them. The biggest challenge I see in terms of digital marketing in the UAE compared to the UK is attractions. I will give an example of something I did a week ago. It was Union Day on Saturday the 2nd, I believe. Gushan, was it Saturday the 2nd, Union Day that weekend? Yeah, it's giving out. New cameraman behind will shout out to Josh. Sorry, you've been replaced in this instance. So that whole weekend, but there was like a rugby tournament going on 7. So me and a contact of mine, his family, I'm very close with, we decided to take to go with his kids to IMG World, which is the indoor theme park. Absolutely quiet and dead. It was there then from that friend I was told that they actually make a loss on that tourism place. It was big when it opened, but with so much available now and such a smaller population compared to the UK, that actually a lot of key places in terms of locals are quiet because the locals prefer to go out and get coffee. They'll tend to go out and do stuff, and they're trying to target tourists, but tourists will spend most of the time at the Atlantis SeaWorld, or they'll go down to Abu Dhabi and Ferrari World. So there are bigger attractions out there. And we're working with our client TGP here in the UAE, trying to drive awareness to the food and beverage bans within Expo City. And I see the same challenge. Not that these a lot of these food brands are new to market. So there's already more bigger established elements out here. And food is huge in Dubai. There's a lot of food and beverage brands out here, already pre-established ones. I've seen the first Shake Shack drive-through that you don't have in the UK. Everywhere you go, there's something available and it all gets delivered. And that's the issue. Our challenge is to drive people to Expo City to experience that food, whereas you have all this mobile technology that brings food to people. So how do you get people out of their comfort zones to change a culture between where 50% of the population is such a young generation? That doesn't leave much people left in terms of tourism or actual families who will tend to be on the outskirts of, let's say, Dubai and Abu Dhabi. So there are challenges I see in the market in terms of some of the industries that we're asked to do our digital marketing for. And it all will come down to three key things: strategy, who we're trying to target, and the message we get to that target. One thing I would advise to anyone who's doing ads in the UAE, focus on the experience, not as much as the product. Now, that's easier said than done, especially if all you can do is promote the product. But when it comes to food and beverage, what I've been telling my client is promote the experience, don't promote the dishes and the food. They will see lots of food images and lots of food brands on their feed from other companies, and they can get that stuff delivered to them for convenience. The message you have to get out to that particular audience is they will have a full-on experience of attending, and this is the kind of experience they can have which will make them want to then engage with their mobile phones, share with their friends, bring their friends, and continue to come again because they had a good experience. Which is why when you go around the UAE and Dubai in particular, there's so many great places that people and hubs that people hang out with. We're in Media City right now, but just next to us, you've got the Palm. Just next to that, you've got Dubai Marina. You've got Business Bay. There's so many areas that you can focus on. So there's some of the challenges compared to the UK. Whereas in the UK, we work with brands like Williams Den, Mission Out. We've done work for Stockwell Park. And getting people through the door hasn't really been difficult, to be transparent with you, because that is the kind of focus of what we do in the UK in terms of attractions. The other thing is there's few customer personas here in the UAE, whereas I'd probably say in Western Europe and the UK in particular, it's easy to segment and spend less time in terms of creating personas in the UK. In the Middle East, they don't really share their opinion as much. They're a lot more conservative. It's better to use what I noted here is to use social media engagement or monitor trends in order to define key motivations of potential customers. What I mean by that is that they won't openly share what they want and what they need in terms of the locals. They're more conservative in their approach, so you have to rely a lot more on data. The common tactic is, the tactic you need to use for marketing in the UAE is the common tactics are the way to go. Big brands that use the same marketing tactics in local regions for many years, simple reason, it's working. So, and it's that old adage, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Locals are still influenced by media, general marketing campaigns, instead of personal experiences. So you have to find a good balance between the two. And we can see it that it varies based on industries and sectors. My final thoughts, just to quickly wrap up, I feel like I've gone through a lot there. And I'll probably do more and talk more about the UAE marketing in UAE and talk about more client case study examples as I get through that. Is that it's going to get better over time. It's not worse than the UK. It's not better than the UK. It's just different. And in order to begin, you first need to understand the market. So hopefully what you've heard from me talking today is that I've really understood the UAE market by living and exploring UAE. I've lived in different areas, I've engaged with different brands, I've adapted to the technology, I've engaged with locals, I've engaged with people that used to live in the UK that now live in the UAE in terms of how they react and behave. Get to know the market you're entering. You need time, you need budget, you need to A/B test. But what you'll find is that generally common tactics work well, but bear in mind that the audience demographic is different. The technology being used is a lot more advanced in the UK. It's very more mobile focused. So what you use as part of your digital marketing, portfolio of platforms and tactics and channels is going to be different to what you do in the UK. The approach and strategic approach is exactly the same. You've got to know your audience, but there are differences. And it's differences, not to say one's better than the other, and it's understanding those differences and challenges. And what I look forward to over the next 12 months as we really establish ourselves in Dubai and the UAE is how does that vary by different regions as we start to look at Abu Dhabi as a region for B2B and direct to consumer with some of our clients out here as well. So hopefully for those that are listening, watching, that's been some kind of insight into digital marketing in the UAE versus the UK. I feel like I've already talked about my views on Dubai with my original topic, but I want to focus more about digital marketing in the UAE in particular and the wider Middle East region in terms of what I'm seeing. I am out here for COP28, so the next 2 episodes you will see me. We'll be doing a 2-part review of COP28, part 1 and 2, sharing my journey. Those who follow me on LinkedIn know that I was doing multiple videos throughout the days whilst at COP28. Before I go, I want to thank everyone for listening. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. We are launching a new brand with Mr. Bobble across the Bobble Pod next year, so stay tuned for that. We'll have some new @handles. If you've got any questions, queries, don't forget to tag me in at Bobble Digital, or use the hashtags Bobble Pod, Mr. Bobble, or Ask Bobble, and we will answer your questions on the podcast as best as we can, or reference them as part of key topics that we bring to light. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode soon.